We talk a lot about building drive, building desire, building a love in that gun dog to do what it's bred to do. And that is vitally important. And if you've done everything properly, done everything to the best of your ability, done everything right that you know how to do with that gun dog, up until the point of steadying that dog, steadying the dog, and when you do it, how you go about doing it, is really vitally important, so that you maintain those three traits as you go through the steadying process and move past that. And when you do get to that point of steadying the dog and are able to steady it, things become a lot more exciting in training. You're able to do a lot more things with the dog that prior to that you were not able to do. And so it is very important that you do it at the right time and you go about it in the right manner. And so we put a lot of focus on that. If you've done everything right up until that point, then you blow it when it comes to the setting of the dog, then everything's been in vain. And that's really just a nightmare scenario for you. And so you do want to get that part right. The way we go about it is that we've already explained the things that we like to see before we start steadying a dog. But when it is time to steady it, we'll take the dog. Really, step one for us is to get the dog on the place board, not attach the leash to it. If it's a slip lead, we won't put it around its neck. We'll just loop it around its neck. We'll tell the dog to sit, 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 mark, mark, mark. I believe it's important that you say those things to it just to get it looking out, looking for the mark. And then we'll throw the bumper. Once it gets to its arc, then we'll let the dog go. Just let the slip lead go, let the dog take off after the bumper. By the time it gets to the bumpers hit the ground, it gets it, brings it back to us. We'll do that about 3 or 4 times a session, 3 or 4 times a day. And really at this point, there is no reason and no advantage to rush through it. Again, it's the biggest thing that you'll do in training up until that point. And everything you do after that point kind of relies on you being successful in steadying the dog. And so that's step one for us. Once it gets to its arc, we'll let it go. Then maybe if it takes a week, maybe it takes 2, really don't put no time limit on it. Just when you can, you need to know your dog and understand when it's able to progress forward in that. Then we'll start letting it go and make it stay on sit, 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 mark. We'll keep it there until it gets about 3/4 down, then let it go. And as long as we keep seeing that same enthusiastic retrieve, that same drive, that same desire, that same love, again, we'll do about 3 or 4 times a session, 3 or 4 times a day. And then we'll move on to holding that dog there until the bumper hits the ground. They'll go out. As long as we see those same things, then again, we'll just keep on with the process. And from that point, we'll move on to step 2, which is really just making the dog sit. I like to just walk out. I don't like to use another person here in this process. I like to do it myself. Just keeping the dog on sit, walking out yourself, telling the dog to mark, mark, mark. I'll hold the bumper above my head, make sure it sees it. It doesn't have to be a long retrieve. That's not even relevant at this point. But I'll just drop it on the ground. I'll stand really between the dog and the bumper, tell the dog to sit, sit, sit as I walk back to it, walk back to the dog, and then send it after the bumper. And I'll just work my way closer to the dog till I get to the point that I can be beside the dog and really do the same thing. But that's really step 2, is walking out, dropping a bumper, walking back to it, and sending it. And then really step 3 is just really standing beside the dog. At this point, I'll just use if it's on my left side, I'll just use my left hand to hold its collar and begin to throw the bumper out and really kind of go back to what we've done with the leash up until that point. I'll throw the bumper out, let it hit its arc, let the dog go. Same process as before. Once it gets 3/4 down, let the dog go. Once it hits the ground, let the dog go. And then move to the point where we can throw the bumper, hold the dog by its collar with just with our hand, and let that bumper sit out there for 3 or 4 seconds, and then send the dog. And all throughout that process, if the dog is still showing the same desire, you know, it's not aimlessly going out there, it's still enthusiastically going out there to get it, and then we've done things right up until that point. And so that is really the process that we use to go about in steadying a dog. And then steadying it with a gun will really go pretty much the same process, but that's really something we'll talk about at a different time. But that is, I believe, one of the most important things you'll do with your dog. And you need to make sure you get that part right. Again, when you do it and how you go about doing it, vitally important. So you can maintain those 3 traits as you can in all of your training: desire, drive, love to do what it's there to do.